now, $250 will send you one ticket. What matters is that you do contribute to WNYC. If you're a sustaining member and you want to up your monthly contribution to $40 a month, we'll send you those tickets. If you become a new sustaining member at a level of $40 a month, we'll send you those tickets. I just said a minute ago we want to get to 100 donors by 7 p.m. tonight. Literally just 2 minutes ago, I said 56 donations ago. We're now at 49. We're less than 50. I know. Just look at that, how far we've come in just a few minutes. That means that you are responding. You are taking the call to action seriously, and you're saying, I'm going to contribute to WNYC to keep my community strong. Keep it up. We can do it. I know we can. 888-376-9692 or WNYC.org. And thanks.
WNYC supporters include Bank of America, offering access to resources and digital tools designed to help local to global companies make moves for their businesses. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/banking for business.
If you believe democracy requires a free press, your station is WNYC, 93.9 FM and AM 820, NPR News and the New York Conversation.
Marketplace is supported by Extend, turning credit cards into spend management tools so businesses can control payments with virtual cards. More at paywithextend.com.
On the program today, the week that was, of course, we'll do sports on television and tractors, too. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Alteryx. Alteryx enables anyone to make better data-driven decisions and believes in the power of analytics for all. Learn more at alteryx.com. And by USB Technology. Found in billions of devices, USB Implementers Forum reminds consumers that certified products display USB IF logos. Get the whole story at enablingusb.org.
In Los Angeles, I'm Kai Rizzo. It is Friday today. This one is the 19th of May. Good as always to have you along, everybody. There is that one giant economic story going on. We will talk about that, of course. There's a couple of others we'll talk about as well, and we will do it with Catherine Rampell. She's at the Washington Post. Anna Swanson is at the New York Times. Hey, you two.
Hey, Kai. Hey, Kai.
So, Catherine, let me start with you. And I will note here that earlier today, we learned that the debt limit negotiations at the White House had, I think, come to an impasse. Somebody pressed pause. I don't know what your euphemism of choice is going to be. This is not a good thing. Time is getting very short.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it would have been great if we had raised the debt limit yesterday, or like 6 months ago, or abolished it entirely. The next best choice is today, and we are rapidly running out of time. There's a lot of uncertainty about exactly when Treasury will run out of money, but it is as soon as June 1st. Treasury has said that, private forecasters have said that. CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, has also said likely early June is a possibility. So, yeah, it would be really great if we had Congress do their jobs here and not cause a global financial crisis.
Well, we'll come back to that. Anna, I do, it sort of feels like we're all whistling past the graveyard. We're all like, la, 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 la. Of course they're going to do it. Of course they're going to raise it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like investors have seemed to think that there would be a happy ending to this story all along. Sitting here in Washington, I'm not always as confident. It's a little more Veep than House of Cards over here, as we say. But, the market maybe seemed to be taking it a little more seriously today after Republican leaders declared this pause in negotiations, or whatever you are calling it. But hopefully politicians realize how important this is and get it together, because the default would be a really big deal for consumer confidence. It could negatively impact the U.S. credit rating, make it more expensive for the country to borrow money. And by the way, the whole thing also strengthens the argument of other countries like China that the U.S. is not a very functional place.
Yeah, we're going to get to China in a minute. I'm going to come back to the G7. But Catherine, let me ask you this, and then we'll get off the whole debt limit thing. The stipulation here, of course, has to be that it's Republicans in the House that are holding the debt limit hostage for policy purposes. I do want to ask you, though, do you think Republicans really think it's okay to default?
I think some of them do. My understanding is that leadership does not. Leadership doesn't, leadership meaning in both the House and the Senate, Speaker McCarthy and Minority Leader McConnell do not want a default. They understand it would be catastrophic for all of the reasons and more that Anna just laid out. But McCarthy does not really have control of his caucus. There are some members of the Republican conference who I think either shrug off the possible consequences of a default or maybe even want it. I don't know. They shouldn't, but they might. And the problem is that even if leadership does not want a default, if they can't assemble the votes for any kind of deal, whether it's a clean debt limit increase or something akin to what the House has already passed, that may be where we're headed unless there's some, magic backup plan that somebody opts for.
Well, as soon as you find that magic backup plan, you let me know. Okay, Anna, let's talk about the G7 for a minute. The president is over there. He is, of course, being briefed on the debt limit talks, as we know, because the White House tells us all the time. I do want to point out here, though, that over there they are dealing with, number one, the China thing that you mentioned. Number two, how to cut Russia off further from the international community and global trade. And I guess I wonder at this point, and look, I'm as much of a multilateralist and internationalist as anybody, but it's been 40-something years that the G7's been a thing. Has it passed its due date here, its expiry date? Because what are they actually doing?
It's a good question. I mean, I think there is an argument that, the G7 is always kind of more about nice statements than actually action. And certainly we're going to see a lot of that coming out of this summit. But I do think that the Biden administration and some other countries, the Europeans, the Japanese, are making this argument that G7 alignment is more important than ever for precisely, the issues that you mentioned. These countries are coordinating a lot right now on Russia sanctions. A big new package of sanctions came out today. Whether or not they can enforce those sanctions very strictly, I think is an open question, but they are, working together more than ever before. And even on China, it seems like world leaders, including in Europe, are kind of coming around to the U.S. point of view that doing certain kinds of business with China is risky. So there's not that much consensus on what should be done about it, but, I think there's more reason than ever before for kind of the wealthy democratic countries to band together around those issues.
I do want to pull out on a phrase from a piece you wrote earlier this week, maybe yesterday actually, or 2 days ago, with Jim Tankersley, talking about the coordinated rollout, and I guess your phrase is a plan of vast public investment that Western allies are using to counter what China has been doing now for a number of years. And I guess what you're saying is that's going to work, and that's kind of what they have to do.
Yeah, so the U.S. is going down this path of investing heavily in its own industries to try to compete with China. So it's trying to, also trying to run faster, but then also trying to hold China back in the race at the same at the same time. And, there isn't really unanimity with allies on either approach. These big U.S. investments in clean energy, for example, have really frustrated allies who are worried that we're going to steal away investment from their companies. But the response from Europe and Canada and elsewhere has just been to increase their own investments. So this is kind of the way that, that the world is shifting now.
Yeah, interesting. All right. Catherine, super quick, got to touch on Jay Powell. He did a thing with Ben Bernanke today in which Powell said, we're still a long ways from where we want to be, with an eye toward the next Fed meeting in like 3-ish weeks. Do you think they might skip a meeting instead of just pausing entirely? What do you think?
I think that would send a really weird signal.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's.
I did not see that coming.
I think if there's a meeting on the calendar, they keep the meeting. Now, I'm sure skipping
a rate hike, not skipping a meeting. They're going to do the meeting.
I'm
maybe
sorry.
Skipping a hike. Right?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, my bad. No, that's my bad.
No. Yes, I think markets are assuming a pause.
Yeah.
And there is good reason to expect a pause, including all of these lurking risks, not just with the debt limit. Obviously, that's the biggest time bomb that could go off, but also there's continued stress in the banking system. There may be some confusing signs about what's going on with labor markets. Labor markets mostly look okay, but we don't really know. So I think that yes, it is fair to say, markets seem to be expecting a pause. That's the likely outcome.
Note to self, ask better, clearer questions on live radio. Catherine Rempel at the Washington Post, Anna Swanson at the New York Times, dealing with me today. Thank you, too. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks, Kai.
Thank you.
Let's do the numbers. The Dow Industrials lost 109 points today. That's about 1/3%, closed at 33,426. The NASDAQ off 30 points, at about 0.25% there. Ended at 12,657. The S&P 500 gave back 6 points, 0.1%, 41 and 91. For the 5 days gone by, the Dow grew almost 0.4%. NASDAQ up 3%. S&P 500 advanced 1.2%. Foot Locker tumbled more than 27% today after posting worse than expected revenue and profit for the fiscal first quarter. The company also reduced its full-year outlook. We've heard that phrase a couple of times this week, haven't we? Disney dipped 2.6% today after a downgrade from the research firm Macquarie, which cited concern over the profitability of Disney's, wait for it, streaming services and a slowdown in business at some of its theme parks. You're listening to Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Domo, the data experience platform innovator that unites IT's need for governance and business users' need for access. With Domo, companies get agile data experiences that spark the curiosity that underpins business impact. More at domo.com. And by Charles Schwab. Schwab understands that wealth management is personal. That's why Schwab offers flexible, personalized financial planning crafted for their investors' individual goals. Learn more at schwab.com.
The world is a big place, and sometimes it is hard to know if a seemingly small gesture like donating to this station makes a dent. But $5 buys more batteries for the recorder I'm using right now. And $10, that's enough gas to get a reporter at this station to their next news story. Hey, it's Sarah Gonzalez from NPR's Planet Money. Your help goes a long way. Give now.
Here's how. Call 888-376-9692. You can also go online to WNYC.org. I'm Sean Carlson with Kate Hines. You're listening to Marketplace at the moment. We're taking a quick moment to remind you that listener support is the most important source of funding here at WNYC. So we are hoping that you give as generously as you can during this spring pledge drive. We've been giving you updates throughout the show. Today, we're trying to get to 100 contributions by 7 p.m. tonight. That's in about 18 minutes from now. We're at 43. So we're chugging along, but we're running out of time. So if you've been hearing us say and urge with a certain amount of urgency to contribute to get us to that goal, now is your time. Now is the time that we have all been waiting for. 39 to go. We're watching it tick down in real time. Literally, if you call right now, we will see it. We will see your name. Leave a comment. Just so you know that I'm being honest, leave a comment and we will read it. I promise you. Contribute at any level. Seriously, be a part of it. Join your neighbors, join your family, join your friends by supporting public radio for your community. 888-376-9692 or WNYC.org.
Think about what it is that has moved you recently on WNYC.org. Did you laugh and shriek when people called in for the Brian Lehrer Show news quiz today and, either got some of the crazy hard questions on New York City history or didn't get them? Or were you like me shouting out the answers to the void? Were you listening to all of it earlier today when she had author Abraham Verghese on, who has, after many years, finally written another novel after his groundbreaking, Cutting for Stone? Maybe you tune into Morning Edition in the morning to hear Michael Hill's reaction when the gig alert is a little extra funky. Whatever that moment is, think about why you listen and then pick a dollar amount that works for you. Make a donation today. Don't take Brian Lehrer for granted. Don't take Allison Stewart for granted. Don't take Michael Hill for granted. We need your support. Independent public media on WNYC helps keep your democracy strong, and it puts fun in your ears sometimes. We do the serious stuff, but we also like to delight you and just build community on the air. We do that only through your support. You are the largest support of our fundraising. 888-376-WNYC or go to WNYC.org.
Imagine you, wait, don't tell me, Carnegie Hall, December 14th, you and a friend, a date, or you just a single ticket. You could be at this show in the orchestra section. $500 right now to WNYC will get you 2 tickets to see Wait, Don't Tell Me at Carnegie Hall in December. It's our thank you for contributing to WNYC, helping to keep us on the air. We hope you make that contribution in the next 60 minutes so we can get to 100 contributions by 7 p.m. tonight. We know we can do it. If you are a sustaining member at WNYC, if you increase that to $40 a month, we will be happy to send you 2 tickets. If you become a new sustaining member at a level of $40 a month, we'll send you the tickets. If you just want 1 ticket, $250, we will send you 1 ticket. That's been fairly popular as well. Get on it. Supplies are limited. We're also trying to get to 100 contributions by 7 o'clock. We're watching the number tick down. 37 left to go. We can do it.
That is so cool.
I know. I feel the power of community. I feel it. Run to the phone right now. Your fellow New Yorkers
36.
are doing the same. Feel that communal effort. Be a part of it. 888-376-9692 or WNYC.org.
Feel the force, listeners. Make it strong. Yes, close your eyes and lean into it. Mm-hmm. Gift of $8 a month. We will thank you with a WNYC pint glass. It's wonderful. It's great. It shows your values. Mm-hmm. It shows that you're a public radio listener. Go to WNYC.org and peruse all our thank you gifts, but know that the biggest thank you gift of all is continuing to make sure that WNYC remains free of corporate interference and remains listener-supported public radio, keeps us strong, makes us available to any and all people who want to listen anytime, no barrier to entry. 888-376-9692.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Risdall. As I mentioned up at the top of the program, debt limit negotiations between the White House and House Republicans seem to have broken down. It's unclear exactly what's afoot here, but the demands from the GOP to add work requirements to the eligibility rules for government benefits is still a Republican must-have. The other day, Marketplace's Chrissy Clark, the host of our podcast, The Uncertain Hour, told us about the private contractors that run some of those welfare-to-work programs. Today, temp agencies that work with privatized welfare offices to put people into some of this economy's lowest paying jobs.
I went to this job fair in Milwaukee a while back, put on by a for-profit welfare contractor called Maximus. It was designed to help people on government assistance find jobs, and there were a certain kind of job on prominent display. Down rows of tables adorned with bowls of snacks and Skittles, there were all these temp agencies, or as they've rebranded themselves lately, staffing services.
So I'm with Lifeguard Better Staffing Service.
Masterson Staffing.
Elite Staffing.
Early Child Staffing Solutions.
Haven Brooks is looking at all the temp company recruiters with a warm but worried smile. She tells me she's 4 months pregnant, she's on food stamps, and she's enrolled in one of the welfare-to-work programs that Maximus runs.
Are you looking for a particular kind of job?
Yeah, a permanent job is something I'm more interested in.
I asked her what she makes of all the temp companies recruiting here. She tells me, actually, she's already working for a temp company, packing boxes in a warehouse. But the work's so unstable, she still needs government help. She doesn't want another temp job.
Me personally, right now, I feel like it's just not something for me because it's like they send you in circles with jobs.
What do you mean they send you in circles?
It's like they call me whenever they have things available, so it's like on and off when I work.
She says sometimes the temp companies say their jobs could become permanent, but it doesn't often turn out that way.
They say if you're here for at least 3 months, then you possibly get hired on permanently, but it's not guaranteed. Sometimes they don't even need you for the whole 3 months.
So why are there so many temp agencies at this job fair meant to help people get off welfare? It turns out Maximus, the welfare-to-work firm that put the job fair on, actively works with temp agencies. Maximus says in today's economy, that's where many of the jobs are, and that temp jobs can be a good stepping stone for people on welfare. Here's Maximus Vice President Joe Murphy.
I encourage our projects to work with staffing agencies because it becomes a force multiplier. It seems to get participants employed.
Another reason temp agencies can be useful to welfare-to-work contractors like Maximus, Welfare contractors can get thousands of dollars in incentive payments from the state of Wisconsin when someone on welfare gets a job, as long as the job lasts a month. So the more people Maximus can get into jobs, the better for their bottom line, even if the jobs are short-term. According to state data we obtained, in Wisconsin, over much of the last decade, an average of almost 70% of people on welfare who had a job had a temp job. And temp agencies get something out of their close relationship with private welfare contractors, too.
How are you today? Good.
This became clear when, a few years ago, I went to visit a temp company that had recently been one of the top employers of people on welfare in Wisconsin, a company called Parallel Employment Group. The office is in a strip mall on the south side of Milwaukee. When I get there, a new hire is getting oriented for his new temporary assignment at a sausage factory. A woman from the temp agency reads the new recruit some guidelines.
The safest way to sharpen a knife is to hold the knife on a flat, solid surface while running the sharpener over the blade. Injuries to the hands and fingers are very common accidents in the plants.
Okay.
Dress in layers. It's cold in there. It's about 30 degrees.
The temp work is intense. It involves long hours.
So you must be flexible with working 8 to 10-hour shifts and Saturdays as needed.
The temp work pays less than a permanent job would at the factory. And the temp agency was hungry for workers. So hungry, they were luring recruits with free water bottles and lunch boxes and referral bonuses.
Refer people, $100 bonus.
$100 bonus.
But then I didn't, so I gotta get on.
Kirk Ledoux, who's now the president of this temp company, told me in a tight labor market,
there's just a dogfight for people. So you're doing whatever you can to get people through your doors.
One way to do that, according to his colleague Yolanda Chavez, work with welfare contractors who enforce work requirements.
They do refer and send some of their candidates to us as well.
In fact, welfare work requirements can be such a useful tool that some temp companies are actively pushing for more of them so they can get more workers into their hard-to-fill jobs.
Getting paid for not working can become a habit. You know, it's almost like an addiction.
Bill Stoller heads up Express Employment Professionals, another of the top employers of people on welfare in Wisconsin. His company's Political Action Committee and one of its founders have collectively contributed more than $100,000 in the last several years to some of the most vocal supporters of more work requirements. The company also puts out white papers that advocate for more work requirements. Why is that a goal?
Well, it gives us a pool of more people that we can help, number one. And I think a person loses self-esteem when they don't go back to work, whether it's voluntary or involuntary. Work is very important for their psyche.
But research puts in question how good an opportunity temp work is for people on welfare. A study from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that in the short term, welfare recipients who got placed in permanent or temp jobs increased their earnings on average. But when researchers checked back 2 years later, the people with temp jobs were actually doing worse than anyone, even people who hadn't been placed in any job right away. They were also much more likely to turn back to welfare. Rather than the welfare to work system, it looked more like the welfare to temp work to welfare again system. I'm Chrissy Clark for Marketplace.
The whole new season of our podcast, The Uncertain Hour, is out now. Platform of your choice, of course, or marketplace.org. This final note on the way out today, because we just don't have enough social networks out there. The Wall Street Journal reports that Instagram, which is to say Meta, is working on a competitor to Twitter set to roll out this summer. Nobody ought to be surprised. Mark Zuckerberg et al. Are big adherents to the imitation is the sincerest form of flattery competitive theory. See also, if you would, Snapchat and Instagram stories.
Marketplace is supported by Brave. With a private web browser, independent search engine, built-in ad blocking, and more, Brave is designed to make the web better. Learn more at brave.com. And by Fidelity. A dedicated Fidelity advisor can help create a wealth plan for a full financial picture. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC.
All right, we are going away on a Friday. Here, though, is your moment of economic context. It can be folly to predict the economic future or try to by looking at oil prices. And yes, I know, I am guilty of that myself from time to time. So I'm not going to make any guesses here. I'm just going to point out that Brent crude, which is the global benchmark, has been above $75 a barrel almost continuously below these past 6 months. Our theme music was composed by B.J. Lederman. Marketplace's executive producer is Nancy Fargali. Donna Tam is the executive editor. Neil Scarborough is vice president and general manager. I'm Kai Ryssdal. Have a great weekend, everybody. We are back on Monday. This is 8 p.m.